It's time for the Sports Blitz, the only live-streamed local sports show in Arkansas, with all the latest on the sports stories that matter to you.
Welcome into a Wednesday on the Sports Blitz. It may be dreary outside. It may be about to rain, cats and dogs. But the NBA season's here, so I'm happy. Got to watch a little basketball last night. I know it's football season, and some of you will not appreciate us talking basketball today, but we're going to be as eclectic as we can possibly be. We're going to look at football, basketball, baseball, NFL, college, and high school football. Lots of different stuff going on. I've asked a question today that I want to address a couple of different ways and a couple of different times. And it's about Brett Bielema. It's our CrossFit Russellville poll question. You know, you've heard a little bit about the conversations that have gone back and forth between Arkansas and Auburn, between Gus Malzahn and Brett Bielema. I feel like a lot of people are still upset that Arkansas didn't get Gus Malzahn. They ended up with Brett Bielema, and it doesn't help that Arkansas has lost 5 games in a row, but there's just a back and forth now between Gus Malzahn and Brett Bielema, more Brett Bielema than Gus Malzahn, going back to SEC media days where Brett Bielema says, we're going to play real American football. Like, what is real American football? Is it line up in the wishbone? Is it run the triple option? Is it I formation, pro stop? What is real American football these days? In the NFL, you know, the teams in the Super Bowl last year, if you were going to talk real American football, like old school style, the Ravens were probably that style, but the 49ers got there running a zone read with a non-traditional quarterback. So it's kind of an arrogant statement, in my opinion, that you would say we're going to play real American football, and whatever I say is real American football is real. Just to me, it seemed sort of arrogant. And then, you know, leading up to this week, Brett Bielema turns in. You know, you may have heard him do it a couple times during press conference. He's talked about turning in plays to the SEC. I never heard Bobby Petrino one time, and I don't want to compare. I never heard Houston Nutt or any other coach, pretty much ever, say I've turned in this play and that play to the SEC. I have to turn this play to the league because I feel like they need to take a look at it. It's just a way to me of crying about a call after the game. And Brett Bielema, you know, it comes out the other day that he turns into the SEC a discrepancy with film play, or video of Auburn, you know, their game film. He said that the TV footage didn't match their game film that they gave, you know, when they lined them up side by side. I don't know why you do that, but I guess they were trying to make sure that Auburn wasn't taking plays out or whatever that they wanted to hide. And now, I'm not sure because I've not seen the game film and looked at it side by side, but I was told that the play in question that was left out was like a field goal formation. Who cares? You know, or an extra point formation, something just meaningless. But regardless, you know, it just brings up the question to me, is Brett Bielema a little whiny? Because I feel like he sort of is. I know that there are many layers to this discussion, and you may like his personality. I want to know today. That's our CrossFit Russellville poll question. Does Brett Bielema? I don't want to frame it in a negative way, so let me see exactly how I wrote it. Because when I say, is he a whiny baby? You know, it's sort of like, have you stopped beating your wife? It's one of those things. But today's CrossFit Russellville poll question. Is it just me? This is my opinion. Sort of a loaded question. Is it just me, or does Coach Bielema seem sort of petty? Is there a reason that you can see that he would do some of the things that he does and say some of the things that he says and push the buttons that he does? I think it goes without saying that Brett Bielema did not expect to be this bad this year. I think that goes without saying, because you can tell by the look on his face and the way he has changed, his demeanor has changed through each press conference, where he's getting a little weary and he's a little upset that things haven't gone his way. And I like that in a coach. But when you start picking out, you know, plays and sending them in every week and talking about it in the media and bringing in real American football, and just shut up and go win. I mean, I know he didn't expect to lose, and I've asked this question today. I want your responses. You can give us a call between now and 11:30 at 968 News. That's 968-6397. Jason Kilburn will be on at about 11:30. We'll talk a little bit more about this. But I posed that question yesterday, and the reason that we're using it today as our CrossFit Russellville poll question is because it sort of blew up yesterday on my Facebook status whenever I made just a blanket comment. Is it just me, or does he seem sort of petty, whining about this or that? I got several comments. I think 13 different comments on it, and I want to kind of go through that here in a little bit. We'll also look, the NBA season, like I said, tipped off last night, at our awards and who we think's going to win it all. It's no surprise, I said on Monday ahead of last night's games that I thought the Heat would win the championship again. We'll give our MVPs, Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. We'll leave the other ones to your imagination, but we'll give you those. And also, today's Wednesday, so we'll give you our NFL power rankings, and we'll look at the World Series, going back to Boston with the I'm not crazy. I didn't miss a game, right? The Boston Red Sox won, and they're up 3-2. Am I not mistaken, Maddie? Yeah, I think I'm right. They're back in Boston. Boston leads 3-2. I felt like I was going crazy there because I've got it written down. Say what? No, Boston's not going to close it out tonight. St. Louis is going to win Game 6 because, I've heard a lot of people talking about different sports being rigged. If there's ever been a sport that's been rigged, and it's been proven like more than once, the Black Sox rigged the World Series. Pete Rose betting on baseball, steroid era, spitballs, all this stuff that you can do to cheat in baseball. If there's ever been a sport that wants to see a Game 7 for all that TV money and all that extra revenue, it's baseball. They're going to Game 7. Just saying. When you see something crazy happen, like the dirt monster jump up and grab somebody, between first and second when they were going to hit a triple, or between second and third when they were going to score, and the inning stays alive or ends, based on some fluke call, you'll know what I'm saying. Or when you see a baseball fly 7,000 feet because they used some microwave ball and the pitcher threw up nothing, just left one up and let David Ortiz go yak to bring the Red Sox back. You'll know what I'm talking about when I say that the game's rigged. That's for you, Corey Thone, who talks about the NBA being rigged. Guy who watches WWE and is talking to me about the NBA being rigged. It's 3-2. Boston Red Sox with the lead, looking to close it out tonight. 7:07 first pitch from Fenway. Like I said, it's going to Game 7 regardless. And then Boston's got the home field advantage. If St. Louis is able to beat Boston 2 games in a row in Fenway, they will have done something. I will have to stand and applaud. It looks like the Red Sox should be favored to win the World Series now. You got to win 1 out of 2 at home. So anyway, last night the NBA tipped, and I couldn't be more excited. I was tweeting it up last night, and I'm sure I lost a few followers because just constantly excited about what I saw last night. I'm a LeBron James fan, Miami Heat fan, and to watch them play as well as they did against Derrick Rose sort of ruin his return. It was just a couple minutes into the game, and they were just stealing it from him left and right, going down and getting layups. You had 7 Miami players in double figures. So I was impressed with what I saw. There was no post-championship hangover. They had the ring ceremony and all that. Miami came out and hit 11 threes, 55% from 3, 51% from the field. Just a really good performance last night. I love the way this team's put together. I love the way that they've got these shooters, Ray Allen and Shane Battier, and even to an extent Norris Cole, around the big three. Now, Chris Bosh ended up 6 of 11 for 16 points and 6 rebounds, but he started out like 0 for 4, and I was just like, dude, stop shooting. LeBron ended up with 17 points, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, and 1 steal. Mario Chalmers was pretty good last night, 13 points, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, and 5 steals. I was impressed with what I saw from him. Shane Battier was fun to watch as he had 14 points, 4 threes. He was 4 for 4. Ray Allen hit 3 threes of his own, had 11 points. So it was a good start for the Heat. You don't ever want to lose a game like that when you get your rings and then you go out there and get whipped. But that's what happened the last time I guess it was the first time the Heat won the championship. They came back that next year and got beat by a lot. in the first game. So get a 107-95 win. They were up as much as 25 or as many as 25 points there in the third quarter. Or maybe it was the second quarter. They were up a lot for most of the game, but the Bulls made a little bit of a run at the end when it looked like the Heat didn't want to put LeBron James back in. They've got the back-to-back. They play tonight, play again on Friday, and then on Sunday. So they play 4 games this week. And, it probably – it can't be too easy for some guys who haven't played all season. Your legs will get a little dead before you catch a sort of second wind or your body gets used to it. But Miami didn't want to bring their starters back in, didn't want to bring LeBron back in. Bulls made a run. Heat came, brought them back in, and pulled away again and won the game. But other games of note last night, Indiana 97-87 winners over Orlando, who are fully engaged in rigging for Wiggins. They're going to try their best. I was talking with Pottsville assistant coach Garrett Hill last night about this as we watched the game, and we were talking about how we don't understand why teams would rigging for Wiggins or suck for luck or whatever you want to call what you're doing when you tank on purpose and you just lose so that you can have more ping pong balls in the lottery. Guys, this isn't the NFL where if you lose the most games, you get the number 1 pick. If you lose the most games, last year I think Cleveland lost the 4th most games or something like that, and they end up with the number 1 overall pick. This year, you're going to have all these teams who are sucking on purpose, and then they're all going to get all these ping pong balls in the lottery, and some team that, was okay, they were on the fringe, they didn't make the playoffs, is going to end up with the number 1 pick. That's justice when you purposely try to stink just so that you can, get the number 1 pick and get a guy like Andrew Wiggins out of Kansas. So we'll see how that goes. Again, I'll make Jason help me tell you our NBA preview, our champions, and our different award winners, MVP, Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year. But let's take a look real quick before we hit a break at our local sports look. It's our Peters Family Living local sports look. Appreciate them sponsoring this segment. Yesterday I was able to go out to Old Post Park on the south side of Russellville and check out the 6A East, I guess it is, conference cross-country championship meet. And the Russellville Cyclone boys won the conference championship with a really, really good performance from those guys. Cross-country, to me, anything that you get done with and you want to puke nearly every time, it's just something I'll pass. I ran a 5K once when our basketball coach made us run a 5K. Clarksville didn't really have a cross-country team because, the people there are too smart to just run for fun. But we didn't have any cross-country team, so our coach, who was the coach of the cross-country team, said, all right, guys, you all have to run at least one 5K. And I was just like, I'll get it over with first one. I'll just be there Saturday. Went out there, and I've never wanted to die more in my entire life doing something than during that 5K. We were running through pine needles and in the woods, and it was just like, it was in Heber Springs. I think it was like a 2-hour drive from Clarksville. I was hacked off. We had to get up at like 6-something or 5-something in the morning, leave at 6 in the morning to get over there and go run. So I have a special respect for those of you who ran in the cross-country meet. We've got photos of both the boys and girls teams who both competed yesterday in the 6A East Conference Championship meet, and congratulations again to the Russellville boys for winning the conference championship. You can go to rivervalleyleader.com and find those photos, and I hope you enjoy them. You can have them. We've had some folks asking about using pictures. Until we've made the appropriate things, taken the appropriate steps and gone through the appropriate channels to sell those pictures, we've just basically been telling people that have kids' pictures or grandkids that they want to use, go ahead and use them. That's what we're here for. We are a free service, so don't listen to those who advertise that their entire audience is the entire population of the entire county. Our audience in every media source is whoever puts their eyeballs or their money toward our product. Luckily for you, River Valley Leader's free, so check us out at rivervalleyleader.com. Let's take a look at football, though. We've got a big slate of games this weekend. First one's going to be the Russellville Cyclones and the Southside Rebels. be able there at Cyclone Stadium as the Cyclones try to capitalize on what I said on Monday would probably be, I don't want to call it a letdown game, but Southside just played the almighty Greenwood Bulldogs to a stalemate for most of the game. Actually led most of the game. Greenwood came back and won at the very end, just a bitter defeat for the Southside Rebels. And when that happens, a lot of times the next week, you may not know that you're seeing it, but you'll see the team sort of let down a little bit. It'll be a testament to the coaches of Southside if they're able to keep that from happening. But the Cyclones feel like they match up well in that game. Seen some tweets from some of the players. Not anything arrogant, but they do feel like that they match up well enough with the Southside to play them well at home this week. So we look for a big Cyclone win there. The Pottsville Apaches, 4 interceptions and a fumble last week for Michael Perry. He would tell you it was one of his worst games of his life, and he is going to look to make up for it this week against Boonville. That's probably the biggest game. I know Pottsville played Maumelle last week, and that one, when they lose that game, 29-18, they fall into second place at best in the 4A4 unless they're able to beat Boonville, and then Boonville beats Maumelle, and then it just becomes a 3-way tie where you have to worry about scores and things like that. But this is the perfect week for Michael Perry and this team to bounce back. Boonville, though, is very, very good. So we're going to give away 2 tickets to this game, and we want you to let us know what you think about our CrossFit Russellville poll question today or Friday. The best take will get these 2 tickets. I know it's completely subjective, but I'm the one who's got the ticket. So you just give us your take on any of our CrossFit Russellville poll questions. Go to facebook.com/sportsblitz and let us know. You can give us a call right now between now and 11:30 at 968 News and let us know what you think about our CrossFit Russellville poll question, or just give us a take on anything. If I like what you have to say, I will give you 2 tickets to the Pottsville Apaches and Boonville Bearcats on Friday night. That's just pretty much how we roll. Dardanelle got a 41-20 win over Subiaco on Friday. They take on Maumelle this week. Clarksville hosts Shiloh Christian. Lamar hosts Atkins on senior night. That's a big one. Two Rivers hosts Benton Harmony Grove. Danville hosts Paris. Dover hosts Waldron. Hector is open because they played 2 games in their first week. And Arkansas Tech plays East Central in the GAC. So we've got plenty more to talk about on the Sports Blitz. Jason Kilburn coming on at 11:30. We're going to look at a little bit more NFL right after the break. I'll give you my power rankings.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russell and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
here's what you missed.
Updated news.
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
Developing stories.
It's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
And weather and traffic on the force.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on. KRK4 today.
Welcome back to a Wednesday on the Sports Blitz here in the Cogswell Motors studio. Mark Freeman, Maddie Lassiter, Jason Kilburn will be on here in just a moment, bringing you the latest in local sports, statewide, national. We try to go everywhere in the world of sports, and we're glad you've chosen to join us today. Let's look real quickly at The Wire. These are the big sports topics of the moment. We want to get you as up to date as we possibly can with some of the things that are going on. I mentioned NBA, and we'll talk a little bit about that in our next segment with Jason. He's a Lakers fan, so I have to get his thoughts on the Lakers beating the Clippers last night. Also, maybe his thoughts on Derrick Rose. I'm not a big Derrick Rose fan, and I tweeted a couple times last night, and there were some folks who don't really like what I had to say about Derrick Rose. But that's fine. That's their opinion. They are entitled to it. But looking here at ESPN.com, their front page, some of the big stories that they've got as far as headlines. Magic Johnson calling out Lakers fans. Now, they got a win last night, but he said that the Lakers fans are spoiled and that they're in for a long year. I feel like that this sort of is hinting to what Kobe Bryant sort of hinted at yesterday. And I wish I'd known that before I drafted him in the third round of my fantasy league. And it's that he's not even close to coming back. Christmas, maybe at best. When we hear that Russell Westbrook's coming back in 2 weeks, I'm thinking, man, maybe Kobe will be a little. Modern medicine is incredible, and the athletes, the way they recover now, Kobe's going and getting his blood spun in Germany and doing crazy stuff that he's probably got a bionic Achilles now. Probably can jump 27 inches higher like Derrick Rose, but I didn't get a good vibe last night from what I heard from Kobe Bryant, and what Magic Johnson said about spoiled Lakers fans sort of led me to believe that they don't think that Kobe's going to be back and be much this year, which you give a guy like Kobe who needs no motivation a little extra, you could be in for it when he gets back. And I hope for my fantasy team's sake that he's able to perform at a high level when he comes back. Although I did sort of take a flyer on him in the third round. I'll admit. I was looking for double-double guys because we get a 10-point bonus for getting a double-double, and didn't really have any. And I was like, Kobe's a top 10 player if he's back and healthy, so I'll just take him and sit him on the bench. And I'll play, who was it that I had? Jimmy Butler instead at shooting guard. He had a pretty good game last night, so I was excited about that. We'll look at the NBA a little bit more in a little bit. Like I mentioned, the Major League Baseball season is winding down, and I'm not too sad about it, to be honest. I have enjoyed the postseason run. I told you a couple of years ago that a couple of years ago when I was in high school, I watched the Cubs and the Red Sox, and I sort of rooted for them because they were terrible, and they finally made the playoffs. And then the Red Sox go ahead and win it, and they won it again since. So, their appeal has sort of worn off for me. Now I can respect what they do, and I really like the way the team is. The beards and everything. I'm trying to grow one myself. Not doing a very good job of it, but I can respect what they do. But I've really grown to appreciate what the St. Louis Cardinals have done as an organization, and so I've sort of rooted for them. But here in this World Series, the Cardinals, man, it's just been a crazy World Series. 2 games ended ways that World Series games have never ended. With the obstruction call and the pickoff at first in Game 4, you just see crazy stuff happening left and right. What's going to happen in this Game 6? Who knows? 7:07 tonight's the first pitch. You've got Michael Wacha, who has been incredible this postseason, just almost untouchable so far this postseason, going against John Lackey. Really, if you're just looking at the pitchers and the way they've been the last few weeks and really just in this postseason, you would favor the Cardinals, I would say. But to me, it's sort of a Cinderella thing. How long can Michael Wacha play the way it's sort of? I don't want to say he's playing above his head because he could come back next year and be the Cy Young winner. But it seems like he's playing outside his mind right now, and eventually the other shoe is going to drop. I hope that I'm wrong, and that he's able to play well tonight or pitch well tonight and move to 5-1 in the postseason, or I guess 5-1 on the year. He's 2.78 ERA, and he has been just untouchable so far in this postseason. But they're at Fenway tonight. The Red Sox look to close it out. The Cardinals look to survive, and I'm looking forward to a good game. That's all I'm asking. Looking at Gold Gloves, Dustin Pedroia and Yadier Molina both win Gold Gloves. Congratulations to those guys. Adam Wainwright was also a winner. Shane Victorino was a winner as well. So those World Series representatives have won Gold Gloves. Full list there at ESPN.com. I don't want to go through all of it, but some of the usual suspects on there and some new faces that have won Gold Gloves. It's always cool to watch guys start their career, you never heard of him, and then 10 years later, you're like, man, that guy. Like Ken Griffey Jr., I was really young when he got into the league, but I remember the early 90s watching him play, and he became my favorite player. And I would stand there and try to do his batting stance, where I'd have my back arm really high, and I'd sort of wiggle. Man, I was trying to be feet real close together, the uppercut swing. I try to hit everything out, and I was a little weakling. Pop up to the pitcher, but I really enjoyed watching Ken Griffey Jr. and watching these guys win the Gold Gloves early on in their career. It's probably a really cool thing for some of you that are big baseball fans, so I appreciate that. And I'm going to give you our power rankings as soon as Jason comes on at about 11:30 in the NFL. But as we switch gears, looks like Percy Harvin's going to be back for the Seattle Seahawks in the next couple of weeks, and he couldn't come at a better time because Sidney Rice out for the year with an ACL. Man, just a lot of season-ending injuries this year, and I know they happen every year, but it seems like every year they become more and more pronounced and obvious to me. And I see these injuries, and I think, my goodness, this is a crazy year. But Sidney Rice out for the year. Be interested to see if Percy Harvin can come in and fill. I know they're not exactly the same player, but Percy Harvin can stretch the field a little bit, and his speed will be welcomed by the Seattle Seahawks. They had a rough one in Seattle, or in St. Louis on Monday Night Football. Nearly lost the game. Right down there at the 2-yard line, their defense made a stand, and they won. I think it was 14-9. Just an incredible Monday Night Football game up against the World Series there. I think the Monday Night Football game outdrew on TV the World Series game. That'll tell you what the NFL is right now. Although they only had like 50,000 fans in the stadium, they were talking about how bad a crowd that was. You have a World Series game down the block, and you get 50,000 in your state. I think that's all right. That's not terrible for a team that's not very good. That's got to be, to me, I thought that was something. So, anyway, let's hit a break real quick. We've got plenty of stuff that we want to hit today on the Sports Blitz with Jason Kilburn here in just a moment. I want to get to our power rankings for the NFL and also our awards in the NBA. I also want to deal with the question of the day, the CrossFit Russellville poll question. What's your opinion? Let's phrase it this way, rather than me being sort of leaning one way or the other. What's your opinion on Brett Bielema's personality? What do you think about Brett Bielema's personality? Let us know today on the Sports Blitz. Go to facebook.com/sportsblitz and get your voice heard.
Over 69 years of treating you like family, Peters Family Living's main goal is customer service. That is their promise to their customers. They offer in-house financing on furniture and appliances and a 30-day money-back guarantee. For a friendly, no-pressure atmosphere, visit Peters Family Living today at 201 North Arkansas Avenue, Russellville. Online at petersfamilyliving.com or call 479-968-2929.
Today, there are more than 20 brands of cars being sold in America. So to be noticed, Ford and Cogswell Motors have to go further than anyone thought we could. How does Ford stand out above the crowd? Not just with plug-in vehicles like the new 2013 Ford Fusion Energy that gets a projected 100 miles per gallon equivalent, but also with a line of gas vehicles equipped with the innovative EcoBoost engines combining power and efficiency, plus a full measure of technologically advanced features. We invite you to stop into Cogswell Motors today. We go further than anyone thought we could, so that you can go further too.
RiverValleyLeader.com is the #1 local source for instant news in the River Valley, offering HD video and live streaming along with top-notch coverage of all the news and events around the area. The River Valley Leader is the only place to go for all the information you need. Check out the newest local business featured on the site, as well as police news and coverage from important meetings, along with the personal stories, all at one convenient click. Check out RiverValleyLeader.com.
Hi folks, Richard Roberts with Cogswell Motors in Russellville. You know, we've been in business since 1949. A dealership doesn't stay in business that long under the same ownership unless you're doing something right, and that's taking care of customers. We have the largest selection of new Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, and pre-owned vehicles in the River Valley. So if you want the most for your trade, the best interest rate on financing, and the best price on a new or pre-owned automobile, come to Russellville and see us. We're at 1900 East Main, or visit us on the web at cogswellmotors.com.
If you didn't count on KARK4 today this morning,
Here's what you missed.
updated news,
Police continue searching for suspects after a home intrusion overnight.
developing stories,
There's another piece of presidential history turning up here in Arkansas.
and weather and traffic on the 4s.
Friday night, Saturday morning will bring us our next chance rain.
Every 10 minutes.
Around the clock.
Making your day easier.
So rise and shine and count on.
Count on.
Count on KRK4 today.
Sports Blitz Wednesday. Mark Freeman, Maddie Lassiter inside the Cogswell Motors studio. Jason Kilburn on the phone line. Jason, what's going on, man?
Hey, not much, man. Just looks like the rain's about to be moving here in Russellville, so kind of sucks because I was wanting to go hunting this afternoon, but it doesn't look like I'm going to get to do that. So I guess I'll call into the Sports Blitz and talk a little sports with you.
We're the next best thing, huh? If you can't go out there and blast deer, you might as well come on here and blast somebody else. We'll blast a few folks here in just a little bit. Let's get real quickly to our NFL power rankings. It's been, season, it's in the, I don't want to call it the doldrums, but it's sort of the middle of the season where there's so much other stuff going on with the World Series heating up, the NBA season tipping off, and all this other stuff going on that you sort of almost lose track of what's going on in the NFL if you're not paying real close attention. If you're the Dallas Cowboys, you just win one week and then lose the next. Or lose one week and then win the next, and you just go about your 500 life and your mediocre existence. But right now we've got 5 teams that I believe will probably have the same 5 teams in our power rankings this week. I'm believing that you and I are on the same wavelength with these. But why don't you go ahead and give us your power rankings for this week?
Okay, and you're talking about your Cowboys, win one, lose one. At least you're winning, winning.
Yeah, at least we get the one, huh?
Seems like they just can't get over the hump. They're getting blown out in every game, and there's so much stuff going on down there in Tampa. It's getting frustrating.
Yeah.
But my power rankings, number one, I've still got Kansas City up at the top. As long as they stay undefeated, I have to have them at number one. Number two, I've got Denver Broncos, who I probably think is probably the best team in football, but they did struggle a little bit this week, even though they went on a 38-0 run to end the game and actually blew that game wide open. But I have them at number two. Number three, I've got the New Orleans Saints. They just keep moving on, man. They just win. My fourth team was, you were talking about Sidney Rice getting hurt for the year, and they kind of struggled against St. Louis, but I've got Seattle Seahawks at number 4. I think with Percy Harvin coming back, I think that's really going to help him out a lot, and I don't know if he's coming back this week or next, but he should be able to help out the wide receiver core there quite a bit with his speed, and, they can even bring him around on some end-arounds or even line him up in the backfield to, give Marshawn Lynch a blow. And then my number 5 team is the Indianapolis Colts. it was hard to put them in there with Reggie Wayne going down, but, it was them or the 49ers, and I went with the Colts, and right now I think they're a better team. And that is my power rankings for this week.
I like it. Well, you've got 4 of the same 5 that I do. We've got the top 4 are exactly the same. Number 5, I've got San Francisco instead of Indianapolis, which what you're saying makes sense because San Francisco got worked over by Indianapolis. So having Indianapolis in there makes a lot of sense. But like we talked about last week, Reggie Wayne being out, man, that just kills the Indianapolis Colts. With that being said, Sidney Rice is out for the year, and I've got Seattle number 4, sort of with the Percy Harvin coming back that makes me have a little bit more faith in Seattle. They won't be able to play the Super Bowl at home, and as we saw on Monday night, they're not very good on the road, so that's why I put the 3 teams that I put above them. Although, if it were, I know it would have to be in the Super Bowl, but if the 2 teams were to match up, Kansas City and any of these other 4 teams, I would pick the other team to win. But Kansas City, like you said, Jason, it's a what have you done for me lately power rankings, and Kansas City sits atop the list for me. New Orleans, you keep chugging along. Offense looks really good. The defense had been really, really good until the last couple of weeks when it's been still pretty decent. But there are some teams, the Patriots, the Colts, and some others, the Packers, that are creeping up on our power rankings. So you've sort of seen, aside from the Denver Broncos and the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion, a sort of closing of the gaps between the other teams. And it seems like, Jason, that we could have had 8 or 9 teams that could be anywhere on this list outside of the top 2.
Yeah, you're right on that. And, like you're saying, there's so many teams that could fit into that in that 3 to 10 slot. And, another team that's really surprising me is I just went blank. Who was I just thinking of?
The Cincinnati Bengals.
Yes, Cincinnati Bengals, man. They're like 6-2.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, their defense is good. And, the quarterback, Dalton, he's really starting to come around. And I know that one wide receiver had 4 touchdowns this last game, but I wouldn't expect him to do that anymore. But, it's A.J. Green there, and they've got a good young rookie running back that's catching the ball and running the ball. And I really like Cincinnati, and it seems like that they are turning, they got a good tight end too, the kid from Oklahoma. So I think I like Cincinnati a lot.
Yeah, they've got 2 good tight ends. They got Jermaine Gresham from Oklahoma, then they got Tyler Eifert that they drafted later on. So, or I guess this year. So they've got a good squad there. Giovanni Bernard playing pretty well. So I'm with you. I like what Cincinnati has put together. But it's sort of like with them, it's what the NFL does that I don't like is that one year a team's terrible, so the next year they give them the easiest schedule ever. And then if a team is pretty good, that year they give them the hardest schedule ever the next year. And you can't ever just get a balanced schedule where you've got some good teams and some bad teams. It's like you play a murderer's row or you play nobody. And that's sort of what Cincinnati's playing this year. They do have some good teams on their schedule. They had Chicago, Green Bay, New England toward the top end of their schedule when, they lost. I guess they only lost one of those games. The other loss was to Cleveland. But at the back end of this schedule, you've got San Diego, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Baltimore, all teams right now that you look at and you think that they'll be able to beat. So I'm with you. Cincinnati could jump into this power rankings in the next few weeks. But before we we've got plenty of stuff left to hit, so we've got to kind of move quickly as we make a seamless transition from the NFL to the NBA. Let's look real quickly. Jason, first, I'll just get your thoughts. You had your Lakers last night get a win over the Clippers, and basically it was one of those, this is our facility. You can cover up the banners when it's your home games, but when it's ours, we'll show you what's up. And last year, the Clippers went 4-0 against the Lakers. This year, that's not going to be a possibility.
Man, and that was a big win for the Lakers. Starting out the season playing against the Clippers, who both of those teams can't stand each other. And I think that was just a big win. I think I saw last night with that win, the Lakers are now 5-0 in game openers when Kobe doesn't play.
Wow.
But, Nash, he didn't play very much. Nash didn't play very much, but, Nash is going to be Nash. Gasol had a double-double. Xavier Henry came off the bench and I think led us in scoring. He had a good game. It just seems like we've got a bunch of players that should have been good, like Sean Williams. He was a big-time prospect coming out of Memphis when he got drafted, and I thought he would have been really good. Nick Young, he's another player that's got potential to be good. And, Xavier Henry, like I was talking about, I think he can be good. And you got Jordan Hill. I think they've got a lot of pieces that we might be. I'm not going to say we're going to be good because I still think we're going to be, probably the 5th or 6th seed, maybe 7th seed in the West. But if Kobe comes back, which it's going to be a while before he comes back, we have the pieces to actually be a pretty good team. The thing is, with most of these players that are on the Lakers roster this year, is they're all 1-year contracts.
Yeah.
So if the players don't blow up and have just a great season and they re-sign them, more than likely they're playing for a contract year for another team, because it looks like the Lakers is going to put all their money in trying to bring in probably LeBron or some other big-time free agents and just create a whole roster overhaul next year. But I liked what I seen last night when they were playing the Clippers.
Yeah, I was impressed with what I saw from Pau Gasol. He looked just like he needs to, as far as, he needs to play the center position. As weird as it sounds, because he's sort of a finesse guy, he's not a 4. He's not one of those guys who's just going to stand outside and feed the post all day. He needs to be in the action, maybe run things through him, that European style that he does so well, and then he'll step out. You saw it when he got in the flow last night. He hit a couple threes. He step out and hit long J's, and then he's hitting the middle too. So double from Pau Gasol. I liked what I saw there. I wonder how ball stopper Kobe, when he comes in, he's going to shoot it 24 times a game. I wonder how this team will free flow offensively when he's sort of stopping the ball. But like you said, I was interested to see how they played last night. Xavier Henry, he just came out after a year at Kansas, and I think he came out to the NBA just because he felt like he should, not because he was ready. And now he's sort of matured a little bit, and he's a young guy. He could be very, very good for the Lakers. I can't stand Nick Young. That guy he reminds me of so many guys that I've played with or that I've seen play before, where he comes off the bus just ready to shoot, and he doesn't care about anything else. I'm gonna get mine. Ricky Davis type guy. I was watching highlights from LeBron early on in his career, and Ricky Davis was that guy. I got the future best player in the world on my team, but I'm going to shoot it 25 times myself. Nick Young's that guy to me. But, all right, let's look at the NBA preview. I guess I could get your opinion on the Miami Heat and the Chicago Bulls, but I think you already know, just like I do, that the Miami Heat are going to win it all, right?
Man, I don't know. It's going to be a hard year for the Heat. I do have them as my champion. I hate to say that, even though I can't stand them. But, yeah, I have them winning. And with LeBron James on your team, it's just going to be hard to – I don't care if LeBron played for you name the team in the NBA. You could put me, you, Maddie, and Brad on a team with LeBron, and we'd probably have a decent chance of competing in the NBA. That's how good LeBron is. It just makes everybody around him better. But I hate to say it, but I have the Heat winning. But I think it's going to be tough for them. I think the Bulls are going to be tough, even though the Bulls are getting blown out towards the end of the game last night. But you got them. You've got the Pacers. I think are going to be tough in the East. I talked about the Nets the other day. I think they're going to be a good team. And then in the West, every team in the West, which I had the Clippers coming out of the West, but Clippers, San Antonio, OKC. You could just go on and on. Memphis is going to be another good team. There's going to be a lot of competition for the Heat this year, but I think the Heat can put it together and win their three-peat.
I think we didn't give our preview as far as like how who we thought was going to beat whom in the NBA Finals. I do have the Heat winning. It doesn't really matter who they play because as great as the Western Conference is, all those teams have to play one another to get to the Heat, and the Heat only have to play one of them. I do worry, like I said on Monday, about the Indiana Pacers because they're built to beat the Heat. That's exactly the way they're built. Let's pound them inside. Did you see that Roy Hibbert had 12 rebounds in the first quarter yesterday? He had 6 blocks or something like that. Just crazy numbers. And I always wondered if he could become the beast that he's supposed to be at, like 7'12", he could be a force to be reckoned with in the paint for the Indiana Pacers. I sort of think that, I don't want to say that that's why the Heat got Greg Oden, but it can't hurt because Greg Oden was sort of what Roy Hibbert was supposed to be. He was a little bit more skilled, I think, offensively in college, or at least they thought he was going to be. Roy Hibbert has worked a lot on his game, and he's had the benefit of not being injured like Greg Oden. But looking at the West, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't like the Clippers. I really don't think that they're going to be. I mean, obviously, hindsight's 20/20 watching them lose last night, but I don't think they're going to be able to guard anybody. You've got DeAndre Jordan who can sort of protect the rim and he'll block shots and things like that, but Blake Griffin doesn't want to do anything but dunk. Chris Paul, he can get steals from, flashing in the passing lane and that type of thing. But Jamal Crawford, he ain't guarding anybody. J.J. Redick, he ain't guarding anybody. They're not going to stop anybody. They're going to give up 116 points to the Lakers. They're going to give up points all year long. And I feel like they're going to be in trouble in the West when it comes down to playing a San Antonio or an Oklahoma City, or even a Golden State or Houston. See, Houston, to me, I think it's Oklahoma City and San Antonio that are at the top tier, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if Houston came out of the West because of, if they're able to gel. I found out today, Jason, that Patrick Beverley's going to start over Jeremy Lin. They're also going to start Omar Ashik, and they're going to start, obviously, Dwight Howard with Chandler Parsons, and I'm trying to think of who the other one is, James Harden, duh.
James Harden, yeah.
But they're going to start a defensive lineup, and I feel like that they're going to, with the run and gun and the fact that they'll start some guys who can play some defense, Houston's going to be even better than a lot of people expected, in my opinion.
I think they're going to be good, too. But another thing on the Clippers, man, you've got to think of Doc Rivers. I think Doc Rivers is a heck of a coach. I know he doesn't get much credit, probably because he's had the big three when he was at Boston. But I think Doc Rivers can get them to play a defense, and I think that's why I think the Clippers. That's why I'm so high on the Clippers is because of Doc Rivers.
Yeah, well, he deserves a lot of talk. I mean, he's in his he's making $7 million a year, so there are some people who give him credit. And he's actually the president of the Clippers too, so he gets to make personnel decisions now. I read an interesting story about his argument with Donald Sterling about whether or not they should trade Bledsoe for J.J. Redick, and that was a fun one on Yahoo.com. But yeah, I don't know. The personnel, the guys don't. J.J. Redick, he ain't gonna guard anybody. He's not gonna be able to. He may want to and try, but he can't. So looking at the NBA, I'm just excited about what I'm gonna see this year. Let's look real quickly at our. You mentioned Coach of the Year. You talked about Doc Rivers. I've got Frank Vogel winning Coach of the Year. So I guess since we're already there, let's look at Coach of the Year. Who's your favorite early on to win Coach of the Year?
I've got Doc Rivers winning the Coach of the Year.
Okay.
Some other coaches that you could also say Spoelstra, of course, or Thibodeau at Chicago, or Pop at San Antonio, and two other coaches that I want you to keep an eye on this year. I think Monty Williams at New Orleans. I think New Orleans could really turn it around this year and win 50% of the games, and maybe even get close to that 50-win mark. But I think New Orleans could be a team that's going to surprise some people. And another player or coach that I think you need to keep an eye on is Mark Jackson at Golden State.
Okay.
And I know you don't like Golden State. Well, you're not really necessarily don't like Golden State. You just don't like Seth Curry.
Oh, I like Steph Curry. He's pretty good. He's just he's a good player. I just don't have him as high as a lot of people do. I told you on Monday I'm sort of a hypocrite in the fact that when I play basketball, I don't like to play defense, but when I watch basketball, I like to see people who will at least try on defense, and he's sort of one of those that's just like, I'll go down there and hit a three. You can go do whatever you want down here. I'm going to go down there and hit a three. So I'll give you another coach, Jason, that I think you should pay attention to, Mr. Laker fan. He got fired after 5 games last year, Mike Brown in Cleveland. Cleveland's going to make the playoffs in the East. I wouldn't be surprised if, with the new look roster and what they've done, if Andrew Bynum can stay healthy at all, if they make a run at a top tier, top 4, 5 seed there in the Eastern Conference this year, and Mike Brown will be in the discussion for Coach of the Year.
I agree with that. I have them as one of my surprise teams too. I think they're going to be good. Kyrie Irving and I think Anthony Bennett, who I think is going to be phenomenal power forward for them. So I like Cleveland a lot too.
All right, looking at Rookie of the Year, I've got Victor Oladipo, partially because I do feel like the Orlando Magic are purposely going to suck. They're going to try to get Andrew Wiggins, so they're going to be as bad as they possibly can. Oladipo, he didn't do anything last night, but he's going to put up some big numbers this year because there's nobody else on Orlando who can. And then on defense and the Defensive Player of the Year, I've got Dwight Howard winning it again simply because his numbers are going to be incredible. He's going to get huge rebounds and block stats because of how many possessions they're going to have running up and down. I do feel like LeBron James is the best defender in the league, and he gets shafted. And if he wins it this year, it'll be justice because he is, to me, the best defender in the league overall, and that's what the Defensive Player of the Year award should go to because when a guy can guard Derrick Rose on one possession and then Carlos Boozer on the next one, there's nobody else in the world who can do that. So I think LeBron's getting shafted, but I think Dwight Howard will win the award again. Your Rookie and Defensive Player of the Years.
I'm with you on Rookie of the Year. I think Victor Oladipo, I think he's just going to be able to put up numbers there to Orlando just because they don't have anybody else that can. And my other one that I was right there behind him, I had Anthony Bennett. I think Anthony Bennett's going to have a really good year for Cleveland. I know he's young and stuff, but I think he has the potential to be really good. But, yeah, Victor Oladipo is my Rookie of the Year. My Defensive Player of the Year. Now, did LeBron James not win the Defensive Player of the Year last year?
No, he's never won it. Last year it was Mark Gasol who won it.
Oh, that's right.
That's what I'm saying. LeBron's been getting hosed every year.
I have LeBron up there. I'm with you. I have Dwight Howard winning it, but I mean, it was hard for me to pick between Howard, LeBron James, Serge Ibaka. Those three are right up there at the top. And I didn't want to put James as my Defensive Player of the Year because I have him as my MVP. But I went with Dwight Howard on that one.
Okay, well, then you gave away your MVP. You've got LeBron winning the MVP. I think he is the MVP, but I think Kevin Durant's going to win it because I've said this for the last 3 years. Eventually it's going to happen. LeBron, as great as he is, every year he has to do something that he's never done before or do something just insane for people to latch on to be able to win the MVP. Last year, it was that stretch where he shot 60% or better in like 20 games in a row, and they won 27 games in a row. You remember that insane streak that he put up last year. And I feel like there's not a whole lot he can do. I mean, unless he just averages a triple-double for like 2 months straight, that will give people the thought that they should vote for him again. And Tom Haberstroh, an ESPN guy that I read a lot, wrote about how he feels like in 1993, Michael Jordan was by far the best player in the world. He would have won the MVP. He went on to win the NBA Finals, but Charles Barkley was given the MVP. It was sort of one of those, we're tired of giving it to Michael Jordan every year. And I feel like the NBA right now is, I don't want to say they're fatigued with LeBron James because he's the best player in the world and everybody loves to talk about him, but it's sort of to where the voters probably, in my opinion, will think, all right, Kevin Durant, he's going to have to do a whole lot to keep the Thunder above, board until Russell Westbrook gets back, and Kevin Durant's going to put up some big scoring numbers. I feel like he'll lead the league in scoring this year, and I do feel like he's going to have the rebounding numbers, and he'll have to do some distributing as well, so he'll have decent enough assist numbers as well. Kevin Durant, to me, is the MVP this year by default, not because I think he's the best player, but Jason, why do you think LeBron's going to win the MVP?
Just what I was saying earlier, he's such a team player, and like you're saying, he can guard anybody on the court. It doesn't matter if it's a point guard, if it's the center, if it's the small forward or whatnot. I mean, he can do anything you want to on the court. And I've never seen anybody that's 6'8", 245 or whatever he is, that can dribble as fast as he can jump as high as he can. He can pass. He's got everything. I mean, and I'm not a LeBron fan by any means. Like I said on Mondays, it's because of the decision he made. That's what turned me off to LeBron. But he is the best player in the league, hands down. Like I was saying earlier, he makes his teammates better. He gets everybody involved. He does whatever the team needs him to do. It doesn't matter if it's, one game it might be scoring 50 points. Well, the next game it might be stopping, Kevin Durant, being him up all game. Or it might be him, getting rebounds or whatever he needs to get the team to win. That's what he does, and that's why I had to pick LeBron James. And as long as he's in the league, and I think there's nobody better than, I don't think there's anybody as good as him or better than him. But with you on Durant, I had him as my second choice. And like you're saying, man, Durant, he puts up numbers too. He's going to be probably the leading scorer. He's going to average a double-double. He's a phenomenal player too. And both those two players are the best that I've seen in the NBA in a long time. And but I had to go with LeBron just because he knows how to win. He knows how to get everybody involved, and he's just an all-around team player, and he can do whatever he needs to do to make his team better, make his teammates better, and to win the game.
All right, we're going to hit we've got about 5 minutes left, and on Friday we're going to look at, speaking of basketball, the Arkansas Razorbacks basketball team, as they're going to tip off their season against Missouri Southern in an exhibition game this Friday at 7 o'clock. So you can stay tuned on Friday for that. We'll talk a little bit about the red-white game that took place, I guess it was last Friday or Saturday in Fayetteville, and some of the things that we took from that. You know, it's hard to take anything from a 112, 102 game where, you know, it's just flying up and down the floor trying to be as entertaining as you possibly can and get a little running in. But let's turn the pages real quick to Hog Talk real quick. Jason, the question of the day that I asked was about Brett Bielema's personality. What are your thoughts on Brett Bielema's personality? I've sort of hinted to what I think about it. I've not been the biggest fan of the way he carries himself. He sort of seems whiny to me, and I just was curious to get your opinion on the way he's gone about the whole Gus Malzahn thing. I know better than to get a guy like Brad in here who is a Gus Malzahn apologist and would just tell me how stupid that Brett Bielema is. I sort of wanted to get a little bit more of a balanced take on it. But what do you think about Brett Bielema's personality and how he's reacted in his first year?
Man, he says whatever he's thinking. He's not afraid to say whatever's on his chest, whatever he wants to say is what he's going to say, and he's not worried about anybody else. But I think, if this would have been against Alabama or somebody, a Nick Saban or a Steve Spurrier or something like that, I don't think you probably would have heard near as much about this Tate Gate, as they're calling it now. And but I think him and Malzahn I don't think they're going to like each other. Just from the stuff that was going on in SEC Media Day, which you brought up a little bit of it earlier, just from the hurry-up offense to the, him saying that he wants to play the American football style or, the real American football, which I think it would have been totally different if it was, if it wasn't Malzahn. I don't think we probably would have heard much about this.
Yeah, I know that there are a lot of people now who are blowing it up because they wanted Gus Malzahn, and the fact is, Gus Malzahn was set up in a much better position.
Let me ask you a question right now.
Okay.
If Malzahn had an offer from Arkansas and he had the offer from Auburn, same amount of years, same amount of money, where do you think he would have went?
Honestly, I think it's Auburn, just because of the fact that he recruited those players and it's an easier setup. I know it's home at Arkansas, but if you come home to Arkansas and you're not very good for 2-3 years, it doesn't matter. You're going to be out on your rear end. And for his career, he probably would see the writing on the wall and say Auburn has a better job. So that's where I'd go. What do you think?
I think he probably would have went to Auburn just because he's had success there, and like you're saying, he recruited some of the players. And I still think he's got a bad taste in his mouth from the whole nut, all that stuff, everything that happened in the year that he was here. And I think he probably would have went to Auburn even if he had the chance to go to Arkansas.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you there. With all this being said, I want to read some of these comments that I got the other day. I just asked if Coach Bielema seems sort of petty. A couple of my friends chimed in. Rye Bailey said, "When you're getting murdered every weekend, it seems you try to keep the team as drama-free as possible." John Fletcher said, "Who knows what went on during the coach's search? Just a thought." He's saying maybe there was a little bit of a rub there between the two during the coaching search, although it seemed like the coaching search was relatively quick and during the season, because Brett Bielema was hired basically at the end of the year, and one of those things where Jeff Long had been doing his research. So I'd be interested to hear if there was some stuff going on behind the scenes. Gerald Gilbert said, "For one, I'm tired of hearing about Auburn and Malzahn. He's not our coach, and they're not our team, so who cares about them?" Jose Harbor said, "Bielema just doesn't care or even know Gus. He's just tired of the discussion when there's nothing to be discussed." Dustin Zeeler said, "You get petty when you're in the midst of a 5-game losing streak and you're not used to losing." There's just a bunch of different takes from this, so ranging, Jason, from who cares to Arkansas stinks pretty bad right now and he's mad to he's kind of petty. So where do you stand on this?
Man, I'm sure he's frustrated, because I'm sure he thought that he was going to come in here and would win, 6 or 7 games maybe and go to a bowl game and everything would be great. But I think when he realized when he got here that the talent wasn't where he thought an SEC school would be, I think it's a little bit of frustration boiling over, and I think I think, like I was saying earlier, I just think he says whatever he feels and whatever he's going to say. And I just think him and Gus, I don't think like each other, and I think a little bit of frustration boiling over from the 5-game losing streak, and I think it's just a combination of a bunch of things. I can't just really pinpoint one thing.
All right. Well, Clark Smith left a comment that I think is, I don't want to say I completely agree with it, but there are some things in it that sort of I've been feeling. It says, just win. I'm not only beginning to lose faith, but I'm starting to dislike the guy. All the talk and brashness is cool when you can back it up, but we can't. At least Petrino didn't shoot off at the mouth every chance he got over social media, and he was able to back it up had he mouthed off. I'm trying really, really, really hard to hang on to the rope. I'm sort of at the place where I know Arkansas is not going to be very good for the next couple of years. I don't know what Brett Bielema, he said he didn't go back and watch the tape. He had to have known. He should have known what he was stepping into. He had to have known that this was going to be a process. I appreciate the fact that he had enough confidence in his coaching abilities and his staff to really turn it around quickly, but it sort of, to me, like I said, it reeks of arrogance a little bit that he felt like he was going to come in and change everything as quickly as this year. But I mean, we all, Jason, knew that it wasn't going to be a this year thing. It was going to be a process. So as far as personality goes, I like him being able to just say, whatever he feels and not be intimidated by anybody. But at the end of the day, I just want to see the results on the field. So I'm going to sort of take his personality with a grain of salt and the whininess that I see with the whole real American football and the tape discrepancies and the sending in this play and that play to the SEC and all the different stuff, and just say, look, I like the style of play. I feel like I believe in what this team can do. And although recruits have sort of kind of turned on us, Jermaine Illuminor flipped to Texas A&M, I do feel like that I need to, like Clark said, hold on to the rope. I know that's a Houston nuttism for the next couple of years and just get through it.
And another thing on Bielema, I think that he probably, the stuff that he was saying before the preseason, that he didn't come here to, he came here to win the SEC, and he wasn't just going to come here to compete with the Bama, and he was going to be, he was taking us to the next level. We've been to a BCS Bowl, but he wants to take us to the national championship game. I think he said a lot of that stuff, too, for the fans to buy into him. I think he was saying all that so the fans would get on board with him, that they would think, hey, man, we've got a coach here that's going to get us somewhere. I think he was, giving them hope. I think that's another reason why he was saying some of the stuff that he said.
Yeah, that's a good point. We'll talk Friday because we've run out of time. We're actually running over now, about some of the stuff that has happened. I don't want to say it's in reply or response to what Brett Bielema has been going through. It's really probably a result of what's going on the field. Jermaine Illuminor, talented offensive line recruit who is committed to Arkansas, flipped to Texas A&M earlier this week. He's a junior college guy, so Jason and I both talked about this in the break. You can't really blame a guy who's got 2 years to play if he doesn't want to go into a rebuilding process, and he would rather go to a Texas A&M and compete immediately. So we'll talk about that and the recruiting implications. We'll actually break down the game. Arkansas is a 9.5-point underdog. I feel like earlier on in the week I thought Arkansas was probably going to get blown out. The more this week has gone on, I feel like I've just got a feeling, I had a feeling that the Cowboys were going to blow it to the Lions on Sunday. I've got a feeling that Arkansas is going to make it closer than a 9.5-point game. Now, I'll talk about why with you on Friday. Jason, are you going to be able to call in on Friday?
Yep, I should be able to.
Awesome. Thank you for calling in today.
All right, thanks for having me on.
That's Jason Kilburn. And this has been the Sports Blitz. Mark Freeman, Maddie Lassiter, inviting you to join us again on Friday at 11 o'clock at rivervalleyleader.com for more Sports Blitz.